I think that we can all agree that over the years from 2014 till now, Five Nights at Freddy's has lost that spark of horror that really made it popular in the first place. Now, this isn't to say the new games that have come out in recent years are bad in any way. They've definitely taken the right steps with the Ruin DLC, going back to more liminal spaces, darker ambient environments, and I really enjoyed playing that game, but still, newer games, I'm mainly pointing fingers at security breach. Just don't hold that same spark that the original Scott Cawthon 7 had. Now, to understand, and my point, you first need to understand what made Five Nights at Freddy's scary in the first place. Now, if you've been here before, welcome back, and if not, welcome. Hi, I'm Striker, and today I'm going to be telling you about the lost horror of Five Nights at Freddy's. Back when the first Five Nights at Freddy's game released, it blew into near instant success due to it being a fresh take on the horror genre, as the big games back then were more like Slender Man. But Five Nights at Freddy's gained so much horror and so much notoriety, not just for its ambience, but one feeling that truly stuck fear into the hearts of players, and that was that fear of being helpless. In Five Nights at Freddy's, you're in most cases, not including FNAF 4, a security guard stuck in an often small and cramped office with no ability to escape, limited power to defend yourselves, and monsters roaming the halls out to kill you. Now, the feeling of being unable to fight back and only watch in horror is terrifying, really. Another key component, of which I believe there is three, is the uncanny effect of the animatronics. You don't really get this with the newer animatronics like the Glam Rocks, Fun Times, Rock Stars, because they just look overly metallic, if you know what I mean. But the Uncanny Valley effect, if you don't know what it is, it describes something as bordering on living and unliving. Now, the animatronics give off this effect and it makes them extremely off-putting to look at and scary, of course. An real example would be if you have been to a restaurant with animatronics like Chuck E. Cheese, for example. Now, if you were to take a look at those animatronics, they give off the same vibe, being downright creepy and unsettling, which is the same sort of feeling that you'll get from looking at the OG FNAF animatronics. Now, the last part of Five Nights at Freddy's that makes it scary is the ambience. It's a dark and grimy pizza place with monsters hiding in the shadows of cameras. The tension builds with this alongside everything else we have mentioned. Also, the background noise and ambience helps to put you off your gameplay and push you to slip up. And when you do... The first Five Nights at Freddy's games, the animatronics are incredibly unsettling. So let's just run through what makes them all, unsettling in that regard. First of all is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. The animatronics, in my opinion, look a bit like ventriloquist dolls, and if you know, ventriloquist dolls are often known to be quite creepy looking, and they definitely give off that Uncanny Valley effect. FNAF 3, now do I even have to talk about what makes the animatronic scary? The animatronic is a literal serial killer, and you can see this man's insides and his skull getting pulled open in rare screens. I'll show them on the screen now, but Springtrap as a serial killer chasing you down through a horror attraction, and there's next to nothing you can do other than lure him away with these sounds of children. It's terrifying. Up next is FNAF 4. Now, I was terrified the first time Bonnie had his way with me. And those animatronics are just creepy in general, with many sets of teeth, and the entire game is just silent, other than little sounds of the animatronics moving around. And the animatronics look like they're rotting. They look like the withers became withered and also, came subject to a Halloween movie. On to Sister Location. Sister Location is widely renowned as one of the weaker games and not as favoured games in the entire Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, often being told as the worst FNAF game out of them all, just for it was the first to really jump out of this loop, and it made the lore so much more complex and confusing than it was before. Now, Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, the horror is very nice. The animatronics faceplates opening is unsettling, the trailers were unsettling, the ambience is unsettling as well. I know we've had a few mentions of the word unsettling there, but we've all had that experience playing Five Nights at Freddy's sister location Night 4. Oh my god, the amount of times I want to punt those stupid mini arenas through a window. But then again, in sister location, that fear of being helpless comes back again as you are stuck deep underground with no escape. And you're stuck underground with these things. They are not the prettiest of boys, I would have to say. For me, Pizza Sim and Ultimate Custom Night, they're just kind of there really. They're not scary. Like, FNAF 6, I believe, is more tycoon elements, and the animatronics, the jump scares aren't scary, ambience isn't that scary, the gameplay is a little boring. Ultimate Custom Night is just meant to be a fun challenge for, like, experienced players, and obviously the shaking PNG jump scares in Ultimate Custom Night just don't add to the horror at all. So, that's about it for this segment. Now, the FNAF VR game was amazing, and we can all agree on that. We even have another one on the way later this year because of how well it did and how well it was received. It did this well because it gave us the feeling of the original games, but actually put us in the world, which just amplifies all the different feelings of horror that we had from those old games. That feeling of being helpless, but it's amplified because you are there. You are able to interact with the desk. You are living the game because everything around you looks real due to it being in virtual reality. All of these horrors that our playable character would go through, everything that they witness is now for us. It's in our face. And it's terrifying when you actually play it. I played it for the first time a few months ago, and it's so much scarier than the other FNAF games. The only thing that's kind of lacking is just some of the jump scares, but other than that, it's an amazing game, and I can't wait to play FNAF Help Wanted 2. Now we get into what is arguably the most controversial game in the series. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach was incredibly hyped up when it released, but when it did eventually release, it was corny, it was a buggy mess. In the trailers we saw much darker environments which looked much better than the finished product. Hints of Vanny the Bunny being an actual proper villain. We didn't get any of what was promised. The Pizzaplex was much brighter than shown in the trailers, which was it deceived fans, and it put a sour taste in everyone's mouth whenever they were going to play the newest FNAF game or the newest installment. Furthermore, the character that we expected to be the main villain, Vanny, shows up 2 times in total in the main game. Her mechanic is cool, she distorts your vision, and it even hints to the lore theory that Gregory might even be a robot. But she only appears twice, ever, unless you go back after in the post-game for the Vanny ending specifically. You will never see her again. She appears one time early on in the game and one time like midway through the game, and then she's gone forever. The next thing is that the jump scares. My goodness, come on now. This is like Ultimate Custom Night level. It looks like they're mildly angry at you, as Doge Creation said in one of my streams. They're not jump scaring you, they're just like shaking you around for a bit. Everything that FNAF had, everything that gave FNAF its horror, declined in this game, and every other game had something unique that Security Breach lacked. Yes, it had bigger and better environments and bigger and better graphics than we had ever had before in the series, but the gameplay suffered because of it. The horror suffered because of it. The 2 main aspects of every FNAF game that we've ever had suffered. Sorry if it sounded like I went on a bit of a tangent there. I was just incredibly disappointed with how Security Breach was as a game. It compares nothing to any other FNAF game that came before it. Because yes, it may have better graphics, better things, but the constant delays hyping it up as something amazing for it to just not be that game. But moving on from Security Breach, we move on to the most recent installment in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, the Ruined DLC for Security Breach, which is a massive step back in the right direction. Still not being fully scary, but it's a much needed improvement, and you can tell that just by playing, it wasn't rushed on by fans. Steelwood took their time and they cooked, which they just didn't do for Security Breach's main game, as shown by how much of a buggy and laggy mess it was when it was released. And there was hundreds of videos dogging on Security Breach, but I find it very difficult to find anyone who doesn't really like Ruin. It has that little bit of horror factor. It's gone back to having smaller, more cramped spaces, giving it a little bit of that old feeling of helplessness that you would have in the older games. The animatronics have scarier designs. The jump scares still could use a little work, but they're better than they were in Security Breach. Everything is more ambient, everything is darker. And I do want to do a video retrospective of Security Breach and Ruin together as a full package later on down the road. But back to what I was saying, Security Breach, the Ruin DLC, just really feels what Security Breach should have been, and feels that the horror aspects of the old game have been have been carried over well to Ruin. Like the jump scares and scripted moments in this game were really enjoyable. It's a fun experience, and it's much needed as an improvement to Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Now, before we get onto the summary, I want to elaborate that I'm not saying at all that FNAF is dying or isn't good at all anymore. Security Breach, bugs aside, was amazing. It just didn't feel scary like the old games. It didn't feel like FNAF. Now, the point of this video is how FNAF has lost its horror. Now, there's lots of reasons for this present in Security Breach's main game. For example, the old games were all dark, with amazing ambience that really set the scene. While Security Breach is neon, it's loud, with rock music playing throughout most of the game. Another of FNAF's biggest horror factors is also completely absent from the game. And it's that feeling of dread and no escape when trapped in your little office or bedroom, or eternal hell for those of you in furries out there in bunny suits. Security Breach heavily lacked all of this, and the horror suffered because of it. Now, Ruin did fix some of Security Breach's flaws by making it more linear, with less space to move and run away from the animatronics, as well as being much darker, much more ambient. Now, this is a massive step back in the right direction, and to making a horror game, well, you know, a horror game, because Security Breach is widely considered a kids game now, and I enjoy that it brought so many new people into the fandom, but they were, you know, children. FNAF is now considered a kids game in the eyes of many, but what the plot of the game is a man becomes a furry bunny, slaughters children, and then gets his bones crushed in the suit. Not just a singular bone, bones. And we see it all in gruesome detail time and time again. How is it a kids game? But that's all from me on my tangent. So, this is the story of what makes Five Nights at Freddy's scary and how it lost that horror in recent years. And if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to like and subscribe, as I do upload a lot, and the subscribe button is completely free. I upload every Friday, whether it be a gameplay video essay like this one. So I hope to see your face around here again, and goodbye everyone.